What is up? What is good? Merry Christmas. We are looking at the issues of Shonen Jump that came out in December 2024. This is my Christmas present to me. I just came back from a marathon 4-day, 3-stop family visiting epic. And let me tell you, there's no way I'd rather unwind after all that fun and food and frolic than talking about manga probably nonstop for like an hour. That's just the kind of person I am. I love Weekly Shonen Jump. I love discussing it with you. This is our last edition of this for the year. But I've loved making these videos. I was worried that eventually I'd start feeling like they were a obligation or a chore, like I'd start dreading them, but far be it. I was actually just like really excited for when I'd get an opportunity to record this. I think this is now my favorite type of video to make, maybe even surpassing the new season of anime preview videos. I'll be making one of those soon too. Anyways, this was a great month for the magazine. No new series, no endings, but a lot of really great chapters, a lot of series really ending the year strong. So I'm very excited to talk about all of that with you. We are going to start by talking about the latest addition to Jump, Sidcraft, Love is a Mystery. So when this series started, I was tentatively optimistic by the creator of We Can't Study, which was a pretty stupid, pretty by-the-book rom-com that ran in Jump for quite a long time. But I read the whole thing. I read it since the beginning of it, and I mostly enjoyed myself. I thought the art was great, characterization was great. Yeah, it suffered through all the same stupid rom-com tropes, but I enjoy those in their own way as well. So I was pretty excited about the new project from this mangaka, and the premise is fun too. He's a great detective who is unfortunately drawn time and time again into crimes and other situations of intrigue when all he wants to do is relax and read his romance novels. He's a big softy at heart who is squeamish at the sight of blood, but cannot help his destiny as a great detective. That's a lot of fun, and of course there's several romantic interest leads kind of hovering around him. With this month, we kind of fleshed out that element of it, the rom-com side with a third girl emerging, some fan servicey stuff, some kind of like targeted fan service stuff. There's a chapter where suddenly all the female leads are in workout gear for no real reason. And I was like, all right, okay, this is how it's going to be. You know, they're going to start having kind of rotating girls in the spotlight with this constant one step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step sideways progression to the potential relationships. All of your rom-com classics. And that's like fine. But what would be great is if they could also keep up the mystery element, because I thought the actual mysteries that were the focus in the first few chapters were pretty good. Nothing mind-blowing, not like this is the greatest mystery writing I've ever seen, but stuff where it's like, yeah, I can solve it kinda, I can anticipate some stuff, there's some fun twists, it's not just stupid things pulled out of the ether. And yeah, I'd say this month they eased off the gas on the mysteries a little bit. In a few of the chapters, the mysteries were just sort of there as set dressing for the romantic intrigue to unfold. But in other ones, they still kind of broke it down in setup and clues, while also establishing a little bit of a hint at some kind of like greater plot lines, greater conspiracies. Another person with the last name Craft, who seems like maybe an antagonist, Zero Craft, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I think this series is kind of getting into a groove that I find acceptable, if not like mind-blowing or awesome. So yeah, we'll continue monitoring it for stupidity levels. But so far, I'm quite pleased. We'll give it a B+. Next, we'll talk about HakuTaku. This is a series where I was very excited at the prospect of it just being a kind of like passion project series in the vein of Bakuman, perhaps, is the most successful example. and it's kind of like an emotional drama about tragic backstories and overcoming trauma and uh, living out your dreams, which is okay. It was hitting okay. And here it kind of switched gears yet again into something sort of along the lines of Trillion Game, which is a series I really enjoy, where suddenly they're using like social engineering and all sorts of kind of explosive attention-getting schemes in order to get themselves in front of a legendary game development team in universe, the greatest game developers who have ever lived, in order for them to take a look at the game that they had been developing in the previous arc. And that's kind of fun too. And I kind of like this extended exploration of that AR base building game. I thought that was like pretty cool. And I'm glad it wasn't just thrown away after one arc. I still think it's a little unfeasible that they're able to make that game. But the game itself is very neat. It kind of reminds me of Den-O Coil in just this sort of the AR world is blending with the real world in a way that is very fun and kind of rewards the imagination. So I'm excited to see where things go with this. I thought the introduction of the true game savant, like this greatest game developer, and his like vaguely supernatural powers where he was like befriending animals like a dang Disney princess. I was like, all right, this is a little weird and seems a little out of character for the general realism and heartfeltness of the series, but it's intriguing too. I'm very curious where they're going to go with this character and where this entire scenario is going to go. I think this one has been fairly middling in popularity. It hasn't really found an audience yet. So I think they are kind of trying to swing for the fences and make some sort of bold, memorable moments happen. And at the same time being cognizant that, yeah, maybe it's going to end in another 10 chapters or so, in which case they want to show off the top level. They want to put our characters in a position where they can truly achieve their dreams on page and not just have a kind of disappointing, and their game development journey continues. So yeah, I don't know. It's a series that kind of diverged from my hopes for it. You know, I had some very specific interests that I thought it would kind of stoke and explore. Whereas instead it's almost gotten a little too generic in some ways. But it's still hitting. I think it's still a good time. I think the art style is still very fun and unique. And even if this isn't a success, I think it speaks well to the creator's potential. I'm very excited what this team will do next. They sound like a frickin' manzai comedy duo. Ippon Takaguchi and Santa Mitarashi. Is this a joke? Anyways, we'll give it a B+ for the month. Pretty good stuff. Next, we will talk about Shinobi Undercover, which last month had what I thought might be a hedging your bets on the series ending soon by suddenly introducing the final boss and plunging our hero into battle with him, which is sometimes a sign that, oh, no, that's it. But no, they managed to finish that fight. Hey, I just realized I got the names wrong. This is the one by Ippon and Santa. Anyways, this is the one that sounds like it's by a manzai comedy duo. I don't know the author's names, artist and author of HakuTaku. I didn't do the slides right. Oops. Anyways, yeah, so they finished that big fight. They kind of fight to a standstill. Our legendary ninja and the legendary ex-ninja, whatever. And then they go full tilt into a new arc, a school trip arc, with the twist that, you know, the whole conceit of this series is that they're undercover ninjas trying to protect this poor girl, actually this rich girl, this unfortunate rich girl who's being targeted by kidnappers and what have you. And they have orchestrated this whole like social life for her where all of the undercover ninja are supposed to kind of worm their way in and be her friend. This one guy was supposed to play the role of her boyfriend, but now that our main character has gotten a lot closer to her, they've decided he should be the one to play the boyfriend instead. And it's like kind of interesting because that's really quite sick and perverse the way that they've like tried to secretly gaslight this person into thinking they're having a natural school social experience when in fact she's basically interacting with actors. It's like some bizarre Nathan Fielder scenario, and being told, oh, you have to initiate like romance with this person under this guise, is really creepy and bad. But it seems like the series is aware of this. They're aware of how messed up this is, and that the series might kind of delve into that territory a little bit. So on the one hand, that's kind of interesting. On the other hand, it is so blatantly contrived to add kind of like a forced rom-com element, because you have this character who is so ridiculously shy and awkward that it's honestly kind of just frustrating to read, and it would never make sense for him to pursue her romantically on his own volition based on his character. So we just have this like very transparent kind of like jump starting of that plot element, the rom-com element, which I think is extremely underdeveloped at this point, and nothing so far has given me confidence that it will be interesting or good or not stupid. So I kind of groaned when I realized that that was the direction it was going in, and all of the kind of subsequent rom-com-y stuff has really made me groan too. But there was a little bit of a light at the tunnel. The last chapter kicked off another big battle against another very potent foe. And I gotta say, when this series is just doing ninja battles, especially at this level, the characters of this level, and not the crazy final boss guy that could just mow down buildings with invisible strings, when it's like these really kind of ninja-y choreographed fights where they're mostly just kind of hitting each other with martial arts mixed in with some projectiles and some sneaky stuff and some ninja techniques and stuff, that's pretty good. Like that, they know what they're doing. They have a good sense of choreo. They have a good sense of speed. They have some inventive ideas without it feeling like ridiculous or bizarre. Just solid ninja action, kind of like the beginning of Naruto. I felt they really had something there that eventually got lost in a lot of nonsense like summoning and energy blasts and whatever. Anyways, yeah, so that aspect was good. Just everything else was not so good. We'll give it a B minus. I think there's potential if they start really kind of examining this whole conceit of you've basically gaslit this girl into a fake life. That's fucked up. And they address that in an interesting way. I'm not really sure how yet. Could be good, but they've only kind of just set up the possibility of that. They haven't really executed on it. And just as likely, we just kind of go along with this nonsense, and it's never really pointed out how stupid it is. Because it's just, it's a silly action rom-com. Whatever, B minus. Next, we'll talk about a absolute banger, Ichi the Witch. Went in some very interesting directions this month. I thought, okay, we are being set up for maybe our first kind of substantial arc. And it seemed like they were really taking their time and kind of just giving us an example of the modes and structures the series is going to operate in. They established this whole Grand Council of Witches. They kind of teased some of them and showed a couple of them off. And it's like, sweet, cool, you're kind of preparing this world and preparing powerful characters that we can anticipate and get excited about. And now it's like, oh, okay, there's this conflict. What will we do with Ichi? Should we send him to witch school? Should we let him operate as he chooses? We're going to decide it by hunting this mushroom magic. Seemed kind of low stakes, seemed kind of silly. And then it's a competition between Ichi and just one of this witch council. Toga Ice, who is really awesome. I love her character. She's like so cool and stern and stoic, but has no sense of direction, is always kind of like goofing stuff up in her big proclamations and introductions and stuff. And it seemed to be like really set up very well for this arc, that it's like her competing with Ichi and then the chaotic element of the mushroom. There was like people observing and giving commentary of what was happening to kind of help us really understand the mindset and the capabilities of these characters. And I was like, all right, sweet. We're going to get probably like 3 or 4 chapters of this. Probably a fight between Ichi and Togais at some point. All sorts of cool stuff. I was like, sweet. No, it goes in like a completely crazy different direction where suddenly the most powerfulest magic in the world, this god tier horrifying entity that has massacred thousands indiscriminately by warping away huge chunks of the landscape, appears, and Ichi picks a fight with him, and the mushroom gets captured like off screen, and suddenly it's like we just slammed on the gas when I thought we were just going to take a nice little scenic tour of what the series had to offer. Now we are rushing at 100 miles an hour into stuff that feels very endgame, and I feel like it's a little much. I don't think we need to do this. I feel like the series was so delightful already and was having such a smart approach to world building that something like this just feels like excessive and like a vie to get people's attention and go, oh yeah, you don't know what's coming. Oh, we'll get you. And that's like fine. And I will say that all of the depiction of the power of this thing has been awesome. Really inventive, really scary stuff. Some elements that kind of remind me of like Berserk almost. Of course, depicted in the absolutely gorgeous, like, one-of-one art style of this series and all of its amazing two-page spreads. So that stuff's all great. And I'm, like, so down for however this unfolds. I'm just kind of like, why are we doing this? Like, what? What about the mushroom? I thought we were just going to hunt a mushroom. I thought that sounded fun. So we'll see. But very impressed with this month as well. I will give it an A+. Next, we're going to talk about Hima-ten. I felt like this one was really catching the stupid disease because they had swung into full harem mode, full fan service mode, and it's like the enemy is at the gate. Feels like we are very likely to fully succumb into that mode. And it's like, it is what it is. I've read plenty of stupid rom-coms in my day. I don't mind reading another one. It's fine. And it's not like I ever thought, wow, this has so much potential to be a really meaniful, powerful series. It's like, nah, I kind of knew it was going to become this again. But I will say, despite all that, this month had some nice moments. Mostly centered around the school trip arc. Each of our main heroines gets moments of intimacy and self-reflection and feeling articulation to self around our male MC. And there are some nice moments. I mean, it's like, if you can't have at least that small character moments where you really feel like there's been some heart put into it, that the author truly cares about these characters, that the author's truly trying to make them lovable, and that they do endear themselves to you in some way. If you don't have that, you have nothing. And if you do have that, you can survive a whole lot of other nonsense because those moments are still just quite nice. So yeah, there is a lot of rom-com nonsense. The accidental kiss because you two fell down. Stupid. Silly thing of, oh, if she's wearing this makeup, maybe it means she likes you. Oh, but was she just wearing it because her lips were chapped and she didn't have chapstick? Oh ho. Just this kind of like meaningless encoding of moments that rather than just sort of letting emotions speak for themselves, or even letting the characters speak for themselves, you just kind of have this like complex encodifying of very particular signals and stuff. I guess to simplify it or to kind of make more relevant to the reader, these little encoded moments that the reader can pick up on, that the characters don't pick up on. And then similarly, there's also a whole lot of like interruption garbage where it's like, oh, the character is about to reach some sort of a romantic epiphany, confess, at least broach a topic, and then boom, distraction, boom, the stargazing is suddenly over for some reason, boom, somebody's phone rings, like that kind of nonsense. It's like, I say, oh, I've read so many of these, I don't mind reading another, but every time it's frustrating. Every time it's still frustrating. And it's frustrating on the visceral level of like, dang, I'm rooting for these guys. I hope they can convey their feelings. And then frustrating on the meta level of like, you couldn't come up with anything better. Weren't you reading Blue Box? It appears in the same magazine as you. They've never pulled this bullshit. They've always come up with an actual, like, emotionally grounded, reasonable, character-driven, explanation for why conversations get misunderstood or cut short, of why characters struggle to convey their full feelings. It's not just a series of convenient inconveniences. I don't know. At the end, there was a nice chapter where they kind of return to this core premise of him cleaning up her house, which has really not been like relevant very often. So it's nice to kind of acknowledge that and show some progression there. And there was actually some kind of cute moments, that made me again think, okay, there is some love being put into these characters. This isn't just checking boxes. This isn't just going through the motions. It's just like 80% that. So we'll give it a B minus. It is what it is. All right, let's talk about the Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi. After the very dramatic last month where I thought, oh shit, he's fighting the final boss, maybe the series is ending, they pulled back the scope. They widened the scope, that is, pulling back. You know what I'm trying to say. They were like, no, there's actually 3 demon lords, and there's all sorts of other demons, and don't worry, there's lots of dudes to fight for years to come if we can get away with it. And then they shifted into a gear that only truly confident you won't get canceled series can afford. A training arc. Our gang goes to a Exorcist hot springs, and learns all sorts of techniques and grows their spirituality and heal and grow stamina and blah blah blah. Very traditional training arc stuff, but I really enjoyed it. Some fun moments of camaraderie and romantic intrigue, but very silly, very light. A little light fan service too. Why not? It's all good. I also liked, the premise here is that he is the ultimate exorcist. He is the strongestest. So how does he have a training arc? Well, it's all about learning to control his power better and have more nuance and stuff. So it's kind of neat because it's like not that they're undervaluing the fact that he is the strongestest, but instead they are kind of finding nuances in ways that it's like, oh, okay, well, being strong, you are like the strongest in this metric, but you don't have the subtlety and refinement to handle this sort of situation where you're fighting a bunch of stuff back to back to back to back or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. A lot of fun. And a lot of good setup, too, of probably the next big arc, this Black Parade, where the Demon Lord is returning with 13 generals in tow. We're establishing more and more our heroes and having some kind of intriguing, exciting, high-ranking hero characters show up, too. Yeah, it's all good. And I liked how long this training arc took, which is an odd thing to say. But they really kind of relaxed in it, and you got to enjoy the setting a lot, and there was room for a lot of little fun shenanigans. And it's not even over. The kind of finale of the training arc where he battles his teacher and boss at Chinese restaurant will probably kick off the new year. And should be a great fight. The fight scenes in the series really are so unique and so enjoyable. So yeah, this continues to really impress me. We'll give it an A this month. I think, training arcs, they're very rarely peak, they're very rarely the most enjoyable and memorable parts of series, but this was a very solid one, and I think it shows a good foundation for the series going forward. Alright, we'll talk about RuriDragon. There was only 2 chapters this month. I was a little disappointed that this whole Ruri is going to summon a storm to help our sports fest go off without a hitch. That it's supposed to rain that day, so instead we're going to make it rain like a week early. I thought, okay, there's going to be a discussion of how freaking weird this is, and how, that's a lot of power to just be using in, such a freewheeling way, and if you can control the weather, does that not give you a huge responsibility to be, I don't know, helping crops grow in impoverished areas of the world? And not just, well, it's the sports fest. So again, it's like the series has just been moving in really weird directions. Just the unreality of the whole dragon element, which used to be expressed in such a down-to-earth, realistic, human way, is now kind of tearing the reality of the series apart at the seams. And I was also disappointed that there wasn't a big spectacular scene where you see her do it. Because I think the art style of this manga is really impressive, very expressive and detailed and rich, and I thought, woo, this will be a really insane action sequence, and then not much. So anyways, the sports fest begins. The scheme worked. I guess it was morally fine to just change the weather on your whims. And the actual chapter then that focused on the meat of the sports fest, I found really fun. I think something this series does very well is depict kind of the fun and chaos and variety of school events. And if you're a longtime manga fan and read a lot of like slice of life and stuff, you start to say nonsensical things like, ooh, they had a really good cultural festival arc. Ooh, yeah, it really brought the fun of a cultural festival to life. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You didn't even go to high school in Japan. What do you know? But yeah, this was a good sports fest. I think they really conveyed the feeling of all the different events happening at once and kind of this controlled chaos and the competition. And then pretty interesting elements too, where maybe a guy has a crush on our beloved Ruri of RuriDragon. He might be interested in dragon life. I don't know. It's like, okay. This is, I think, the sort of perfect plot element for this series to explore. How does Ruri feel about that? Is he just fetishizing her horns? It could go in so many different directions, but I'm down for it. I'm here to see how our girl handles it. Fun stuff. So we'll give it an A- for December. Moving right along to Astro Royale. We wrapped up this fairly substantial multi-month arc where they went to the research facility that had the initial comet shard. I already forget what it's called. Or rather, it had like this material that like summoned the comet or something. Or maybe that's still up in the air. But anyways, this guy turned into a big, horrible monster blob thing because he like OD'd on Astro Juice. And that was kind of neat. A little strange, a little unexpected. It kind of felt like they veered into the territory of like Jujutsu Kaisen or something for a moment. But whatever, the fights are still good. I think this series does fights well, even if they're not super creative or anything. They're solid enough. Good choreography and interesting use of powers and blah, 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 blah. Just kind of what they need to be, so... When they fought the big thing, it was like a typical battle against a big thing. I'll expose this weak point. You get pushed forward by my power into like big punch, boom, big punch. It's fine. It's fun. After that, we did some kind of world building and scope expansion, laid out the sort of framework for the rest of the series. They kind of set the stakes in. Before it was like this very nebulous thing of like, okay, well, we need to reunite the family, so we need to go find all of the other adopted sons and beat some sense into them, basically, and reunite as this singular mafia power, and then that will get the world into order. And it was like, oh, okay, but there's like 12 sons or something. That's gonna take a freaking while. And some of them are already cooperative, or some of them are going to be cooperative as soon as you show up. So it's kind of weird to be like, oh, there's an arc for each son. And it just sort of felt a little messy. Like, are they just sitting there waiting for you to show up? And or more realistically, is it just going to be like total chaos? And then it's very hard to kind of follow the line of the plot. Or the plot line, if you will. So they made it a little more definitive and simple. They need to get 5 more of the like Astro Stone thing. And those could just be anywhere. They're gonna like track down and find leads, and they get all 5 and they're good. And that's the end of the series. That's the goal. And I kind of like this too, because then if they start getting the hey, can you wrap this up? Oh, guess what? This dude has 3. He was just chilling with 3, and it made him really strong. So this will be a big final fight. So anyways, we get into the first such arc. I think they go to Yokohama. And they're dealing with this dude, the Immortal of Yokohama, another one of the adopted sons. I thought his design was pretty cool. I thought that whole shtick was pretty cool. And then they were like, hey, guess what? It's a tournament arc. This Immortal of, I think it's Yokohama. I should have written down in my notes. This Immortal of somewhere in the Tokyo metropolitan area is going to have a giant Astro tournament to determine who gets this chunk of the Astro Gem. I am just guessing on all this terminology. I think it's called the Astro Big Battle or something. And you know what? I'm fine with it. I think they hit their strides when they're doing fight scenes. I think there's room for growth and expression of these fight scenes. I think their character intros and stuff are fun. They get good designs. I think a tournament arc plays to all of these strengths and has very little unnecessary like gristle. So yeah, fuck it. Let's go. I'll give it a B, and I'm gonna check my Discord messages real quick. All right, we're good. Okay, moving right along to the Super Psychic Policeman Chojo. This was a pretty typical month for the series. Lots of just sort of standalone gag chapters. One where they actually do somewhat of a police investigation when Cop Bot seems to die. One where they're trying to help the drunken old man that comes and drinks with them start and improve his curry restaurant. That was fun. Good discussion of what makes a good curry. Kind of felt like a one-day outing 4-man chapter in such a way that they're really trying to refine and engineer the process of good curry. A very strange and silly chapter where Chojo splits into good and bad personalities that was just suddenly so high concept and like beyond the typical supernaturalness of the series. But it was fine. I don't know. Not super consequential, just silly. But then they had one chapter that really, really impressed me. One chapter that I was actually just cackling at. Where Chojo's childhood friend that got him into like otaku nerdy hobbies, including trading card games, shows up, and he's basically like a Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist. Like he's a parody of that character archetype, and just how he acts and how he is obsessed with dueling, and his character design and everything. He's just like awesome. But then they're making jokes about how it's like, isn't this just an unemployed man who is just wandering around playing card games all the time? And then we launch into a big Yu-Gi-Oh parody, including rare card hunters and settling everything through duels and some footage of the duels and a lot of very funny meta jokes. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. That was like one of my favorite chapters of the series yet. So overall, pretty standard month with one highlight that where I thought, ooh, this is the kind of parodious stuff I really enjoy in this series. So we'll give it an A-. Another solid month for this. I just love gag comedies, you know. I have such a soft spot for stuff like this, and it really just makes me laugh. So I'm always happy to give it high marks. All right, Kagurabachi got really interesting this month. I think they're really cooking now. We had this whole kind of saga of the Enchanted Blade contractors being targeted, and this kind of crazy situation where they're just frantically rushing to protect these people and ward off the would-be assassins. And it's like, okay, this is fine, this is good. I kind of see how it's going. And then it complicated a bit with Samura's third-party plan of, I am going to go kill all the Enchanted Blade wielders and the people coming to assassinate them, because I just simply do not think these things should exist in our world in any capacity. And you're like, okay, that's kind of interesting, maybe that's kind of based. And then, in this month, it's kind of like they eased off the gas in this kind of immediate action, and instead focused more on like the stalemate between these three parties, the tactics around who will make the first move and what that move might be, and then ultimately all kind of reaching this conclusion that they're going to probably target Samura's daughter, who has been placed in this like super witness protection program where she has lost all of her memories of her father, and her father has lost all memories of her, and yet, you know, there is still ways to target her using blood or something. And this kind of put the series in a very, very interesting perspective, where suddenly we cut to what everyday life is like. We see a slice of life of his daughter going to school. We see this like haunting feeling she has where she knows her memories have been erased, or like she doesn't know that, but she like knows there's something missing. She has this sense that there's something she can't remember. It's very haunting, very compelling. And then suddenly we're kind of rushed into the danger of the people targeting her there, the ninja squad protecting her is there. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. And I like that we're going to probably see this sort of next arc through her eyes to some extent. And really kind of understand, you know, what is the normal world in this series? How do normal people view this history with the Enchanted Blades? How do they view the fact that there is this giant surveillance owl in the sky, which I thought was a really cool image, something very bold and inventive that I like that they're kind of tangling with, without having kind of a contrived loophole of like, only people who can do sorcery or are involved in this sort of thing can see that. Normal people won't even see it. No. They're spending the time, they're taking the opportunity to be like, okay, let's take a look at the normal world and how it's affected by all this and what it means to kind of live in Kagurabachi land. So yeah, I think this is big dog shit. They're taking themselves seriously. They're setting up kind of these other emotional thrusts. I'm very, very curious how the stuff with Samura's daughter will go. I think that was very well introduced. I don't know. I think the crafting of these arcs is getting better and better. And I'm really intrigued. Where is it going to go next? So we will give it an A for the month. Moving right along to something I liked a lot worse. Nue's Exorcist. You know, someone left a very thoughtful comment. I'm sorry, I can't remember who. But I really do appreciate all the comments you guys leave, by the way. To all the folks that take the time to watch these and then offer their own thoughts on the ongoing series. I really appreciate it. I love having those conversations. But at the same time, I totally forgot who said this. Somebody was like, you gotta realize with Nue's Exorcist, it's operating through light novel logic. And that the people who are fans of it, the people that are keeping it in Jump, are not reading it like a typical shonen. They're not reading it like a manga at all. They're engaging with it through a medium that I just have no experience with, that has no appeal to me. And I can make all sorts of disparaging claims about the sort of genres and tropes and stuff we typically see in light novels, but they are extremely popular, and this series gives people that, and that's what a lot of people want. And this month was full of stupid light novel crap, okay? So, you know, the first light novel-y thing is that it's this high-octane action thriller with this kind of convoluted mess of lore, while at the same time being a series where busty babes of all factions are throwing themselves at our main character for really no reason whatsoever. So we had the conclusion of this big battle. Another girl confessed to him in the climax of it. It was very stupid. And then in the very next scene, she has to go back with her family, and she's telling him not to follow her. So it's like, this is something I've witnessed as a trope in a lot of these sort of light novel-y stories, is like a brutal masochism scene where our main character has had the shit beaten out of him and then is like berated endlessly by one of the heroines. But of course there's a reason for it. Of course, deep down she loves him. You know, oh, she's just saying all that stuff so he won't follow her. Which, like, it's so obviously not going to work that it's, like, insulting that that's even presented to us. And then the real point of it is, yeah, it's just this, like, weird masochistic intensity of, like, what if there was a cute girl and she loves you, but because of tragedy, she has to say she hates you and makes fun of you and does all sorts of nasty things to you. Ooh, wouldn't that hurt? And I was just like groaning, like rolling my eyes, going, oh my god, this is the kind of crap that's in all those books, isn't it? So then they did that. And then, and then he goes to like back to the high school, which is like their HQ. and there's like 3 people basically that tell him don't do it, don't go save her, it's too dangerous. One of them is like, I'll heal you. Okay, this is one chapter. They heal him. He gets beaten up by someone else who's like, don't go, I'll beat you up before I let you go and throw your life away, trying to save her from her family. Bow, 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 big battle. So he got healed, and then he got beaten up again, and then at the end of the chapter, they're like, and have this medicine, it'll heal your wounds. And I was just like, is this AI written? Is this written by something that can't read what it already wrote? Like, what the fuck? He literally gets beaten up and then healed and then beaten up and then healed. Like, it's like, it's just nonsense. It's the same sort of nonsense as when they had a secret training arc revealed in a flashback during another training arc. And then, yeah, he continues going, no, I'm gonna go save her. And then another person stops him, and she kind of like confesses too. And the whole time they're going, the house is scary. It's so scary. You're going to get scared. It's spooky. It's scary. But I will say this. At the very end of the month, they showed the house, and they showed all the creepy crawlies in it. And it was pretty scary. Every once in a while, they do some pretty cool imagery in this series. They do something that's kind of flashy and exciting and unique. And I was like, all right, you got me there. That's a pretty cool looking house. Again, it's like, it's nothing that Jujutsu Kaisen has never done. But for a second there, it had a similar appeal as some of the stuff in Jujutsu Kaisen, I guess I'd say. So yeah, continue to not be a fan of this. I will give it a D-. I just cannot, it's just like, it genuinely feels like I'm being told that I'm like stupid. The overwhelming message I get from this is, well, you're stupid, right? So you must like this. I'm so sorry. If people like it, all the power to them. I think if I was like into light novels and a part of my brain just operated in that light novel mode, in the same way that I'm into stupid rom-coms, or the same way that I'm into stupid ecchi series, or any number of other genres that I read very indulgently and go, oh, this is a good one. I'm sure in another lifetime I could have had the same feelings towards light novels, and then I'd be reading this and going, oh, well, you know, it understands how to do the masochistic make a girl call you shit trope. It's a better example of that than I've seen lately, and I'd give it like a B, you know? But we're not in that universe. we're in the universe where I encounter this as a novice in the world of light novels, and I go, what the hell is this? Alright. Moving on to Kill Blue, another series that I'm pretty mixed feelings about. We wrapped up this whole the final arc, the final moments of this arc that's all around the cultural festival sales battles. It was fine. I kind of felt like it was going for a long time, like somebody that just keeps telling the same joke. And then the sort of added bonus battles they had were like fine and kind of funny. A lot of just sort of like juxtaposition humor of, whoa, but she didn't think she was a gamer. Whoa, they're like roasting each other, and this girl's got a real foul mouth. And it's like, yeah, that's like kind of funny, but it's not really that funny. And mostly I was just kind of happy when it was over. Then there was just this very contrived thing of, oh, you gotta stop the stage from falling over, which really came out of nowhere and just reminded me of like the worst aspects of the series in my mind, which is just like a real sense of like, you don't know what you're doing. Like you are just kind of like throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And it kind of felt like after hitting its stride occasionally, in the last few months, it's returned to just kind of like, well, what if his like former disciple showed up? I guess. So yeah, his former disciple showed up, and there's gonna be some fights, and that's fine. We'll give it a B-. It's not like it's stinking, you know? This is a series that's never like totally sucked or totally offended me or anything. It's just consistently been a series where I'm just like, what are you trying to achieve with this? Where's this all going? What's the point of this? All right. Next, let's talk about Akane-banashi. Let me check my messages again. Oh yeah, my boyfriend's reading B-Stars. He said that he kind of felt like it was wrapping up, and then he realized he's like only halfway through, and I'm like, I can remember feeling like that. But I'll talk to him about it later. So we had the end of the big flashback arc to the founding of the Shiguma School, of the crossing directions of Arakawa and Shiguma, and the establishment of the two separate schools and all that stuff. I talked about the flashback in kind of conceptual form at length last month. The finale I quite liked. I thought there were some pretty powerful moments. I really liked how they still are kind of protecting Arakawa's art. We got to see Shiguma's performance, and it was jaw-dropping and one of the very high watermarks of the entire series for me. So I think it's appropriate that even in a flashback, you gotta hold off on showing what Arakawa is all about. He's the elder statesman of Rakugo in this world. When we see him perform, it's gotta be like a big deal. But yeah, I also like that the flashback still left things a little ambiguously. Like, some parts of the plot line got very definitively filled in, but in a way that is very pointed out, very explicit. Akane is just like, oh, okay, so now I know how they got their start, how they were both taken in under the same master, how that master divorced from his previous master and established this new school. And then she's like very explicitly, okay, but I still don't know why is it that my master inherited the Shiguma name and why Arakawa chose a new name and why they formed separate schools. She's like, all right, I get this, but I don't get that. And I think that's just great because it sets up, a future mystery, and it doesn't kind of leave things too vague, too ambiguous. It's like very clear on, okay, but we're going to find that out later. And then after all that, our current comrades of the former Shiguma school, who have each been sent out under a new master, get together and vow to rebuild the Shiguma school in a very, very exciting, very decisive moment that feels like it's really kicking off the next saga. I like this kind of return to focus of those kind of core students, They were established very early on, and you kind of think, oh, this is like our main crew. But then, I think to the series' benefit, all sorts of side characters get introduced, Akane's rivals get introduced, you learn about kind of the more upper echelons of Rakugo, all this stuff. But now it seems like it's very clearly saying, okay, we're gonna take some time to see how each of these guys adapt to their new master, what strides they make, their journeys to being promoted, and then we're gonna reconvene, and that will be kind of the grand finale once they've achieved all of those separate goals. And of course, Akane is in the scariest position, being now under the tutelage of the terrifying Arakawa. But I hope they have space for us to learn about all of her peers and her senpai and stuff and how they're doing. So yeah, I think the series is still doing just so great. I just love the series so much. And I'm really, really excited in how they kind of establish this next era of it. So we'll give it an S- for the month. Very excited. Blue Box was really good this month. I think I was a little worried there that it seemed like it was sort of losing the sauce, running out of juice a bit, and meandering into some more irrelevant plot lines, or just less relevant plot lines, things that weren't as established emotionally, things that I just simply didn't care about as much, and other things kind of seemed a little more convoluted or shoehorned in. And I was like, it's not bad, but it feels sort of maybe like they're running out of steam. This month, though, I think really defied that and brought it back to the core of the series in a really exciting, really, really well executed way. So we set up this whole still kind of silly, still kind of convoluted situation where Taiki is living with Chinatsu Senpai's dad, This is the arrangement they came to. It's sort of awkward and sitcom-ish, but I thought they brought out both of their characters really nicely in contrast with each other. And then they use this as a jumping off point to really focus on Shinatsu Senpai herself and her jealousy and rivalry with her basketball friend, introspection around what basketball means to her. I think, now at this very crucial climactic moment, this is her last shot to make nationals in high school. I think it's just such a wonderful opportunity to kind of bring her entire character arc to bear and kind of show, okay, these are the final revelations she's having about herself, about her sport. This again, kind of contrived, but really lovely moment where Taiki goes and gets her dad, who's been held up in traffic, but is trying to get to the game. It's a rare moment of vulnerability for him, but I think just reestablishes what a great guy Taiki is, what a great character he is. And then at the end of that, the game begins and we get a bit of basketball action. And it seems like they are very content and excited to show us a big slice of this game and really let us revel in the excitement and the tension and stuff. And I don't really know where it's going to go. I want to see her win. I want to see her go to nationals, of course. But at the same time, they're really framing this as like, well, this is the big definitive moment for Chinatsu. So it's like, if she wins, are they really going to go, okay, but this is the even bigger definitive moment. Now she's at nationals. So I don't know. We're going to see. But I'm quite impressed. We'll give it an A+ for the month. I think it's really back into the full swing of it. And I think the next month's chapters could be very, very, very strong if they can bring out this passion and tension in the basketball match. Alright, so we're going to talk about Witch Watch, which was fucking crazy. So we launched into an extremely intense flashback. The series has, as is signature of it, wholly switched gears from its episodic, silly sitcom ways to a battle shonen series again, which is like a very surprising trick because they do it so infrequently. But yes, we have a flashback to an incident where like the parents of our main characters plus their homeroom teacher, who are all in fact familiars and descendants of familiars and such, teamed up to try to prevent the summoning of the ancient witch Jura, which of course is the actual plot of the series. So someone is trying to summon Jura and have her take over the body of Nico. And this is like crazy stuff. Like there's big battle scenes and they're freaking awesome, like really well conveyed, really intense, suddenly very violent and intense and scary. And it's like, even though we know kind of how it ends, like we know which characters are okay because they lived and this is a flashback, it still was like riveting to see how much danger they were in, how close it comes. And then this insane twist where it turns out they weren't summoning Jura, they were trying to summon Jura, but instead they summoned Jeanne d'Arc, who is like a flaming knight, who has reincarnated as like a warlock, spitefully spurning humanity that let her burn to death on the stake. It's like, what the fuck? So now we got our crew fighting Jeanne d'Arc. Okay. It's just so crazy. It's so intense. I cannot get over like how hard they swing in this direction when it's time for the battle shonen stuff. And it's like, I think they're kind of wrapping it up. Like, I think that's like it for this flashback. So is the next chapter gonna be like, oh no, Nico cast the spell that turned all her school supplies into an animate objects, and now they're all talking and they're gonna stage a revolt. It could be. That's just the kind of series we're dealing with here. It's just all gas, no brakes, every genre. Some of the time, guess what? Somebody died. Guess what? It's Jeanne d'Arc. Guess what? It's like the most intense battle scene of this entire month, which is saying a lot. It is good stuff. We'll give it an S minus. Now, Witch Watch had consistently from the very start of the series got an A plus after A plus after A plus. I thought it was just very consistently funny, great premises, great characters, great art. A plus, A plus, A plus. But with this insane mode switch, not that I'd want it to be like this all the time, you know, not that I'd like this to even be 1/5 of the series. But when they do it so right. And just the fact that they're able to pull off just this totally other mode so well, I had to recognize it. It stepped into the S zone. Good for Witch Watch. Alright, now we'll talk about the Elusive Samurai, which is also very, very good this month. I was talking last month about how it had gone into a mode that I found very straightforward in a pleasant way. It was just straight up tower defense. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Do I? Hup. Wah. Yeah, so it was just tower defense where they're sheltering the Emperor's son while being besieged by Sadamune and a lot of other characters from very early in the series, since they're back in good old Suwa. And it was just really fun getting to see everybody again, getting to see our heroes aged up a little. And then this month, it's not so much that it complicated it, but it just sort of filled it out with a lot more emotional depth than I expected from this series. The series has always had just such a goofy, irreverent tone most of the time. And when there's moments of sentimentality or tragic loss, where suddenly the reality and perspective is put into place, it does so with this kind of like poetic distance, where it's almost giving you now the perspective of like a history textbook. But not so here. Here, it really stays in the intimate, in the characters that they have established. And the main thing I'm talking about here is that our protagonist meets up with longtime antagonist, Sadamune, who is like our first primary antagonist and is back, and they just have a drink together, and they reminisce, and they talk about all of the crazy shit they've been through. There's this really funny, really kind of profound moment where he starts saying that he kind of thinks of Sadamune as a father. And Sadamune goes, whoa, hold on. I've heard reports that right before he died, you called Aki your big brother, and I heard that you called someone else, like your uncle or whatever, and he, like, cites, like, 3 other incidents in the manga, and it's like, all those people, after you said that, died. So I appreciate you not calling me your father. And I just thought that was so funny, and yet at the same time just reflects such an interesting, unique aspect of this series' world building, where these sorts of events have already started becoming history and are being passed around contemporaneously by reporters on different battlefronts to their superiors, who then disseminate it to other people, such that his exploits are already becoming like legendary within this current era of Japan, which again we know because they were discussed and recorded at the time and now exist in modern textbooks upon which this series is based. So it was just this really stunning full circle moment that gave me such a hushed perspective on history that I think this series can on occasion really achieve, which is a very unique and very profound strength of it. So great stuff. And then back into battle. I love this whole thing of them setting up a decoy to make the enemy forces think they hadn't retreated when in fact they had sneakily snuck out the rear. You know, the elusive samurai, you gotta do some retreating. But then, in a twist, our main character, the titular elusive samurai, he himself did not retreat and squares off against Toki, who up until this point, feat-wise, is like one of the strongest characters we've seen. So this, I think, will be quite the battle. Really, really excited to see where it goes from here. And again, I don't know where this series is going as a whole. I have not looked it up on Wikipedia. I have not learned spoilers from real history. But I feel like we're heading into more and more like major climactic moments, and I'm excited to see them. Okay. We will give it an A+ for the month. Really good stuff. Just love the reminiscing with Sadamune. Love the historical perspective. Can't wait to see more. Alright, now we will talk about Sakamoto Days. I have really been enjoying this prison battle arc. The battle for the JAA fortune teller, with the absolute psycho EQ showing up. Really, really awesome fights. Great character arc for Shin. Some twists, some advancements. And then the sudden injection of Torres and Sakamoto both, who I think basically just got bored of fighting each other, realized what was going down in the prison due to Shin's GPS tracking tag, and pop in to give this arc just another crazy escalation in a direction we can't even predict. I don't really have a whole lot to say about it, I guess. I mean, the fight was great, the setting is great, the characters are great. I think the way they're exploring Shin's powers is very interesting, going in some pretty novel directions for the traditional mind-reading character. Whew, my ears are kind of popping, I think just from talking for an hour straight after already a pretty long day. But we're getting to the end. Yeah, really good stuff. I don't know. It's like, I love this series. I think it is living up to its quality day by day by day. I hope the anime brings it to the prominence it deserves. And at the end of this, we are heading into a big, or probably pretty big, flashback arc of how Sakamoto met Shin. And it's like, yeah, dudes, enjoy yourselves. Take it slow. Flesh out the world. Have these big character arcs. Go into the depths of the backstories. I want this to be the new long-running pillar of Jump. You know, everything older than it is either Hunter x Hunter, One Piece, or Ending. Or a gag manga. I want this to be the new torchbearer. I want this to lead us into a new era and get the accolades and popularity it deserves. So yeah, we'll give it an S- for the month. Just great stuff. Oh, I forgot to animate this. A+ for me and Roboco. Very, very good. Gag comedy par excellence. Some fun things. Mystery adventure where somebody ate the Mont Blanc and it's just so obviously Roboco, and they go through the whole chapter acting like it wasn't obviously Roboco, and then at the end it was Roboco, and they explain how it was Roboco, and all the characters are going the whole time, well, yeah, I knew it was Roboco. That's great. I think that really exemplifies just the X factor of this series. Just this amazing, stupid character that is Roboco. One where she becomes giant for some reason. They do a bunch of kaiju dokes. But then they also make a few Jaguar D. Sol One Piece references too, which delights me as a One Piece fan, as somebody that was very, very moved, you know. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that near the end of the video, but I love when they pay these sort of contemporary tributes, when it's sort of this running commentary on the rest of Jump, which they did at the start of the month in one of my favorite chapters they've ever done. This extremely stupid, extremely meta Undead Unluck chapter. And we're going to talk about Undead Unluck very shortly, but it's definitely heading into its climax. They've confirmed the series is ending. And so Roboco, I think, made a very good homage to it in this chapter, focused on the manga's propensity. What am I even trying to say? It's habit. It's frequent enjoyment of putting gigantic words in English on the page when the characters activate their powers, and that Roboco keeps doing it, and in doing so is gobbling up the page count. And nothing is going to happen in the chapter if she keeps wasting pages on activating her powers. It's all great. It really made me happy. I love Undead Unluck. I have such mixed feelings about it ending. And I was very happy to see it shouted out in this chapter in such a goofy way. And then the month wrapped up with one of the craziest, stupidest, over-the-chopped aspects of the series, which is the fact that pretty much all the adult characters, minus some of the characters' parents, were in the same like high school class, and they all get together and they're all friends. But characters from totally disparate areas of the story, like, turns out that they all knew each other and they're all buds. And so one of them gets married and they all attend a wedding, and it's an extremely goofy wedding chapter that still has some moments of sentimentality, like genuine sentimentality, that I found quite lovely because I'm stupid. So yeah, really solid stuff all around. The Undead Unluck chapter, as I said, is like one of my favorites they've ever done. So we'll give it an A plus. Yes, yes. Now we will talk about Undead Unluck, which is ending for sure. It's not been clear to me when the final chapter is. I kind of thought when it was first announced, like, oh, that was it, and I thought, oh, this is the last chapter. But then there's been 2 more chapters since then, and I'm just kind of like, every chapter I feel relieved that it's not over yet. But while anticipating the next one, well, that's got to be the end. It's in Giga Ultimate Super Climax mode. A plot element, again, that I'm sure was originally going to be kind of like a multi-chapter setup and revelation, perhaps a whole arc about tracking down and comprehending this final artifact, the heart, which is like the final trump card against Soul. Instead got resolved, explained, like reintroduced, explained, became the focus of everyone's quest. The mystery was solved, and they moved forward in utilizing it, all in the same chapter, which is kind of a shame, but it was still pretty sweet. I think that's kind of the running theme of this month and the previous month, and then whatever chapters we get next month, is like, damn, there's a lot of good ideas here that we are seeing for like 1 panel each. and at least those panels are awesome. It is so powerful and huge in scale. So many truly emotional moments as this beloved cast of characters is meeting its ending. But man, it is just non-stop barrage of ideas. Like, again, like this whole idea of the final rule, the rule that mankind learned itself, the rule of love. It's like, could you imagine if that was like the climax of a chapter, or rather the climax of an arc, instead of just like suddenly at the end of a chapter? And then this whole thing of like every character getting a little moment reflecting on all the memories they re-inherited by using the artifacts, stating their intents, stating their dreams and their form of love, and getting like 1 panel each, sometimes sharing panels. It's like, man, it's just, I don't know, it's just so crazy. But it's like, at the end of the day, I am a little disappointed that this wasn't, 5 times as long. But I can't be disappointed in these messages, in this ending, in the answers that they ultimately provided. The idea that the heart lives within Fuka. The idea of combining the ultimate unluck by undead touching the heart. The sentimentality of the rules ending, of what that will mean for all of the negators. The impact and size and intensity of the battle against Soul. It is all delivering the things that I wanted. It is making good on all of this setup that it's had for years and years now. So it's like, I don't know. I have such mixed feelings about it. Like, it's good, man. Like, I am really enjoying it, and we'll give it an S minus. But I just wish that everything in here had been given more time to cook. But it is what it is. All right. Next, we'll talk about another fairly long-running series that is definitely reaching its ultimate giga climax. But I would say is not showing any signs of being hurried, not showing signs that they had to X out a whole bunch of stuff in the middle of it, but instead has really kind of gotten this opportunity to relish in not just the final battle, but all of the emotional components, all of the different premise setups, all of the kind of powers and aesthetics and iconography We're getting near the end. It's okay. The iconography that it built up, it's like cashing in on all those things at what I think is actually a pretty healthy, pretty exciting pace. So last month I was really complaining a lot that it's like, wow, is this really the climax? What basically amounts to a cutscene where you mash a button. We gotta overload the Soramine energy. Okay. But then after that, there was like a proper final battle. We got to see Futaba's spring blooming, which we hadn't seen yet, and it looked pretty cool. And she got to do a big punching fight, a big final stab of Asa. It all, came to a head, a climax. They had 5 pages basically of Asa dying and making his final proclamations and stuff. I was like, yes, this is the space that an ending needs to have after it runs so long. Even though I didn't enjoy this series so much, I just really appreciated that they had that opportunity and they seized it. Emotional moments where Kyochiro is saving Taiyo, this final climax of their whole arc together. Finally acknowledging him. And then after all that, just silliness and sentimentality. They're back at the house. They're going to have a wedding ceremony to kind of signify the end of this mission. Their happy returns with some goofiness, with a feeling of checking in on everybody, with this low stakes crisis of him missing his wedding ring. And it's not amazing. It's not like, wow, this is the best shit I've ever read. This is the best ending I've ever read. But they're doing it all right. They're making space to give the series the ending it deserves. The ending it's earned by building up all these characters, by building up all these emotional arcs, by building up the setting of the mansion. We should explore it one last time. I gotta praise it. We're gonna give it an unprecedentedly high grade this month. I think the series has always languished in the C's, but with just the completeness, the feeling of everything coming to a close in a very satisfying way, in knowing that it needed to spend time, having a 2-page spread of Kyochiro saying, I acknowledge you, Taiko, to have multiple pages of just running around the mansion, knowing that all that stuff really is important, that's really what makes an ending feel so rich and full, and taking that opportunity. I don't know if they had to do some negotiation with the Jump editors or what, but they really got to take their time with this ending, and I think it's proving to be a high watermark for the series for me. So we will see. I also assume this will end probably in January sometime. Another big pillar of Jump, not one of its most popular titles, but one that had been running for a very, very long time with a steady fan base, consistent mid-carter. So yeah, a big hole is going to be left with this in Undead Unluck. Alright, now let's talk about the real vets. Those that simply will not die. For better or worse. And it's like, look, man, I complain about this series a lot already. You can go back and watch me complain. My feelings have not changed. And the reason they have not changed is because the manga has not changed. We ended last month with them playing the negotiation card game to see if they can convince this lady with super nen powers of some sort to join their mafia family. And guess what? This entire month was just playing the card game. They instituted martial law, and then it really didn't make a difference. And in my notes, I say, card game ends, but then more stuff I don't care about. And I'll be honest, I don't really remember what that stuff even is. It's on hiatus again. Who knows when it'll come back. When it does come back, I promise... I really promise, and I really mean this, I will continue doing my best to enjoy it, to appreciate it for what it is, to explore the nuances of it, to speculate on it, to try to anticipate and get excited for where it might be going, to try to enjoy it. I genuinely will continue doing my best. And in doing so, I will reread a good chunk of chapters to make sure I'm as up to speed to give myself the best shot at understanding what the fuck is going on. But yeah, this month had nothing for me. This card game I don't care about. It is so convoluted, so way, way, way tangential to anything I do care about. And these chapters are just so tedious because it's nothing but talking. Truly nothing but talking. And why are you even writing a shonen, a manga for kids and a magazine for kids if it's just talking? I cannot comprehend. We'll give it a C minus. And again, a big part of that is like the legacy of Togashi, the legacy of elements of the series I enjoy, enjoying his character design, enjoying elements of his characterization, enjoying maybe one or two panels where there's like something interesting on the screen that's bolstered up. If it was just this card game nonsense, I don't even want to think about how low it could go. All right. Next, we have One Piece, and I gotta say, it's midnight here. I've already had a very long day at the end of a long holiday week, and even One Piece, I was only able to muster about half an hour's worth of enthusiasm about, which you can see in a video I just published a couple hours ago where I read the latest chapter, and you can see my thoughts on the 3 chapters before that in other videos. I don't have too much to say on top of that. This is truly peak for me. I have been looking forward to the Yellbath arc since I was a little kid. Like, truly a little kid, like 12. When I first read Little Garden, and it occurred to me that someday we really will go to the land of giants, and it might be awesome. And guess what? It's fucking awesome. There's moments of comedy in these chapters, moments of deep catharsis, of reunion. It made me cry for 2 completely different reasons on 2 occasions. First, seeing Usopp and Luffy so happy to finally reach this place of their dreams, and then seeing Robin and Saul's reunion after a decade plus. It just doesn't get any better for me than this. You know, I've said it a million times, One Piece is just my favorite manga of all time. And this mode of kickstarting an arc, of introducing these plot lines, of having a grand adventure on a new island, is my favorite mode that One Piece is in. And then on top of that, the Yellbath arc is among the things that I was looking forward to most in this entire series, up there with Wano, up there with Raftel, and or Laugh-Tale, I should say. And it's delivering. And it is living up to my expectations, even though these are expectations that have been fermenting for 2 decades. It's pretty freaking incredible. It's an amazing feeling. I would highly recommend to anyone out there, get super, super into something for like 20 years, and then have it keep getting better. If you can swing that with your own favorite media franchise or whatever, it's a good feeling. So we'll give this a P- again. That again is the rank 1 higher than S. And who knows, man? Elbaf has been really great. I think we could see it go even higher. We'll see. Okay. Whew. That's all. I'm going to go to bed. Look forward to a lot more videos soon. I am going to do another Weekly Shonen Jump related video where we are going to do the Jump Awards for 2024. Stuff like Best New Series, Best Ending. So look forward to that. This was the tier list last month, and this is the tier list this month. You can see it's pretty top heavy. I think Jump is in a really good spot right now. And even more exciting is that, you know, all these series occasionally break out into the next echelon for me and become like really, truly fantastic. And I'm so excited to read along the magazine with you guys in 2025 and see what new heights all of this great stuff can reach. Okay, that's all from me. Please look forward to other videos. Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day. And yeah, see you then.